It was Snow White. Leah recognised the buttercup yellow skirt, fitted blue bodice and red paned sleeves from the animated Disney version she'd watched with her sister Neve when they were kids. She couldn't remember who'd given the DVD to them. It wasn't something Geraldine would have ever thought to buy for her daughters. This version of the fairest of them all was a far cry from the creamy cartoon girl that Leah and Neve had wept over as she lay in her pristine glass coffin. This was fairy tale princess turned feral. Black dreadlocks hung to their shoulders, chest hair erupted from the bodice's neckline, muscular legs and arms propelled them forward. The torn sleeves of the dress flapped about the swell of their biceps. Leah could tell that, even from behind the large plate glass window looking out onto Gideon's paddock on the opposite side of the road. It was barely light outside, the tops of the tallest eucalypts in the park only just illuminated by the sun's rays, but Leah could now see other bodies resolving out of the shadows. A sparse, ragtag crew of 3 trailed behind Snow White. One of them, in more or less conventional dress, pushed a supermarket shopping trolley. Its wheels bumped across every rock and root jutting above the desiccated grass, setting to clatter whatever was in the trolley, trash or treasure. 2 distorted animal shapes brought up the rear. There was a sauntering rabbit, or at least someone in a rabbit onesie. The hood of the garment was pulled low over its face, ears sagging in skewed hooks. Behind the rabbit capered a slight figure, wearing a skirt that reached her ankles and a singlet top that barely covered her breasts. An oversized bird's head, possibly papier-mâché, with a hooked beak and a smattering of feathers swayed atop her neck. The bird woman staggered, her arms held out at her sides. Drunk, Leah thought, or maybe she was simply trying to balance the awkward construction on her shoulders. Was Leah watching a procession? A performance? The strangeness of the spectacle made her anxious. She couldn't wrestle it into logic. Perhaps she was getting a migraine. Her unease was like that which arrived along with the fractured vision, foreshadowing a headache. But she wasn't premenstrual, the time in her cycle when she was most prone to them. It had only been seconds since the troop's appearance, but it was enough time for Harley, nestled beside her on the couch, to notice that her attention had shifted. Leaving his sippy cup to leak milk onto the leather couch and his board book to slide onto the floor, he grabbed handfuls of the oversized t-shirt she slept in and hauled himself upright. Balanced on her thighs, one fist clutching the hair at her crown, he followed the direction of her gaze. Next door, Milo, John and Lucas's chocolate labradoodle, began to bark. Harley lifted his other pudgy mitt and pointed. "Who dat?" Of course, Leah thought. They must be the campers. Before she could absorb any further details, they disappeared into the strip of eucalypts and native shrubs that lined the creek running through Gideon's paddock. Now a nature reserve, it lay on the other side of the drove, where she and Moses had lived for almost 6 years. She knew all its seasons and all its creatures. At least she felt that she did. The nervous red-browed finches that favoured the densely thicketed shrubs, the superb fairy wrens, the breeding male with his gorgeous blue plumage, the pobblebonk frogs calling in the wetlands after rain. The paths along the creek were her refuge, walking them a way to disperse the day's accumulated stress. They were so familiar to her, but the weird convoy had tilted something out of square.